councilman from Maine. It's not from Maine.
No, she's not from Maine.
Is it that?
Yeah.
A couple more to muck it all up, right?
What? Thank you.
Where's our leadership here?
Oh, here comes Greg and Trey.
Oh, there's John over there.
We've got a bad name. I don't know why I got here in his office. Otherwise, are we ready to proceed? Video, tape, all ready to go? All right, let's call this meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Basil, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Here.
Commissioner Lyons,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Here.
Mayor Morgan.
Here. We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting on November 14th. Are there any corrections, comments, additions?
I move they be accepted as presented.
Second?
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Any changes to the agenda? No. Town manager, thank you. Our next meeting will be January 13th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. We now move to public comment. First, we would like to welcome Rhonda Geiger, General Counsel from the Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics.
I'm just here again to say hi. I've dropped off some extra material. There's a couple more outside. Remind everybody that we're here. If you have questions, all the contact information is on there. We're happy to do in-person trainings if anybody needs it. If you have new members, new council members, new employees, we're happy to come do in-person trainings. Basically, we just want to remind you that we're here and we're here to help if you need us.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for the pens and
Yes.
other gift material.
It's not a gift. It's not. The value is definitely not worth.
They're not $100.
They're definitely not worth $100. In fact, that you might not be happy with me after you start trying to use the pins. You might find that you're required to dispose of the pins. I don't know. But anyway, yes, we're here. And we really just want to remind everybody just to reach out to us before something goes wrong. We'd so much rather be proactive than reactive when it comes to ethics, and especially this time of year, Christmas with gifts and things like that. So please let us know if you have any questions. We tend to get back really, really quickly. So thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Good to see you again.
All right, take
Have a
care.
Merry Christmas. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, let's move on to our regular hearing. We're going to hear from about the Plaza Soleil entrance. Any ex parte communications before we begin?
On here.
If not, whoever's going to speak, please rise and be sworn. Okay, this is an application from Forsheen Development Corporation, correct? Carrie?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Happy holidays to you. Greg, Trey, good morning. Carrie Glickstein on behalf of the Blue Water Cove Development Group. The agenda has the guardhouse and the sign really is the same piece, so I'll just talk about them together. The guardhouse, as you know, is owned by the town, as is the property that it sits, same as the area of the sign. The current design has been there for quite some time. So the application before you today is really just updating what you already have. There's no changes to the interior. The changes to the exterior, at least in terms of aesthetic issues, are you've got I think, some faux stone out there and stucco. We're removing that, and you've got a stucco facade with the horizontal siding. We are raising the roof both for aesthetic reasons and practical reasons. The aesthetic piece is it's relatively squat and flat. But there's also been some complaints about delivery trucks hitting the side as it comes in. So while we're not raising the structure, we're raising the actual truss that will sit on top of the beam 12 inches. So it'll have a little bit more, in our view, look a little better being slightly taller. The sign is also removing the faux stone and replacing it with the simulated coral stone that the town employs on many of its street signs. We're replacing the seal and just the name of the community. I think at the architectural, at the ARPB, there was I think the only concern was voiced about the font style in the sign. Not being an expert in fonts and not hearing any suggestion as to what we should use. That's what was originally proposed by the sign designer. There is a black and white slide on something that is should be towards the very end. Should be a separate maybe PDF file on.
This is only good picture.
So it's the same thing, just disregard this was just really a font study. So you can disregard the other elements. The other elements proposed are unchanged in terms of the coral facade. So this was about as basic, I guess, as the sign designer could come up with. I don't really understand the complaint on what was wrong with the other, but that's what came up, and this is what was suggested as an alternative. So, but nothing else has changed since the application, and all of this would be done at our expense. It would be done coordinating with town staff in terms of when's the best and most efficient way to get it done. There is work that's proposed for the entrance. This would, in all likelihood, be done at a different time just to mitigate that inconvenience. Here for questions.
Can you put the two typefaces side by side?
Good job, Rebecca.
There you go. It's a little easier to read.
The only question I have, Mayor, is previously the sign said the town of Gulfstream. And I'm not proposing to keep that, but we are changing what we previously had.
I'm not sure the sign says, there is a sign in the front of the guardhouse that says Town of Gulfstream. That's, if you want to keep that there, it's just I think a kind of an etched freestanding, but it is not on your monument sign, only the town seal.
Right. So tell me, where is this sign going then?
In the same place.
Same place, okay.
Right, and the neighborhood's redoubled its effort and revitalized their covenants under MARTA. Went through that entire process over last 3 or 4 years. So I'm assuming they want a little more identity on the sign as well. So.
Any other questions, comments? Preferences one way or the other? I don't see the difference.
The one on the right's bolder.
Folder. Yeah.
The one on the left, now that's raised lettering again.
That question came up before. It was,
Have the little attachments with the raised letters. It just applied.
yeah, there's no lighting behind it, or
Yeah,
the
it's just-
lighting
it's
is in
just
front of
applied.
it, right?
Yeah.
It's just more visible with that.
Yeah, I think the left is a little more rustic. probably a bad description, but less bold.
You seem to have a keen interest in this, Mr. Stanley.
Well, I mean, you're gonna be looking at it for a while after the developer gets done, whether the neighborhood will, I should say.
I mean, this has been approved by the ARPB, the homeowner association has weighed in, all are approved this. The only real issue for us is to second that, but also just like which of these two typefaces you would recommend.
Which one, the homeowners?
Mr. Lyons,
which one's
the Gulfstream logo will be on the second one. They were just changing the typeface for you.
Did the homeowners have a preference, the Plaza Soleil?
Well, this
I mean-
came up, and I'm paraphrasing in the context of the ARPB meeting. Somebody had emailed one of the board members suggesting that they knew a lot about fonts and that the font that was proposed was too contemporary. And I may be misrepresenting that, but I think that's kind of where they were going. There was no suggestion as to what we should do. We just said we're open to changing it. And I think there were 5 suggestions and this one seemed to be the most generic on the right. So if somebody can come up with something better, we're open to that, but we had to propose something in connection with the approval. So
Weigh in.
Well, maybe the one on the right. I don't know. What do you like?
Yeah, I prefer the block.
It's a little easier to read, but I don't have any,
The stone's changing too, though. Are we sticking
No,
with the
no.
stone on the left, which is, so the stone on the left is the way it's gonna be?
that's correct.
Okay.
Tom,
I like
the
I like
renderer was out of town on
I like the
vacation,
French stone,
so we
right.
just got the fonts back and everything else.
It looks like the one on the right is the one selected.
That's
and
fine.
We need a motion.
I'll move to approve the one on the right.
I'll second the motion.
Well, we have more.
In
than
the
that,
more
actually.
bold
We
style.
have-
Oh,
Yeah, we have
okay,
more.
there we go. We have more to approve.
All right, John, you started it.
I'll move to approve level 3. Is that where we can start? Or level 3 site plan review to prevent remodeling of the entry guardhouse of Plaza Soleil and new entry sign in same location.
I'll second.
We got a condition to read.
Oh.
Yeah.
There's there's the condition.
Mhm.
Any minor modifications to the approved landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and major modifications shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to the commencement of landscaping.
I'll second that.
Condition 1.
Finally.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne.
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you have a great holiday. Thank you.
very much.
It looks good.
Okay, town manager, update on
I
the
think it looks
town
good.
hall tree
Better
replacement.
than it is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I didn't wanna
Anthony,
say
our
that.
Public Works Director, and myself, I think, 10 days ago, drove out to a tree farm in Clewiston. A very large tree farm because there were so many trees to look at. But we did find one that we thought would go well to replace this tree. It's a live oak tree. Anthony, can you just take the podium? I'm trying to remember, is it 26 feet tall?
It's about a 25 to 30 foot specimen. Live oak diameter of the trunk is about a 12 to 15 inch stock.
And it's within the dollar amount that the commission authorized. We saw many out there that were 4 and 5 times that amount. So we didn't look at those very long. So, but I think it's a very nicely shaped tree. I think most of you maybe have seen the photos that we took with our phones, and you know a little more about the details of when it might be.
They're planning on trying.
We've already met with the son of the owner who came out here, and he wanted to do a site visit. We've already had line locates, you know, because you're gonna have to dig, and Go ahead.
And then he's also suggesting that when they get ready to come and do the installation, to present the tree in a fashion to where we can take a look at it from street side before they actually do the installation on it, to either spin it or rotate wherever they have to rotate it.
If we approve this, when would the tree be?
They're trying to do it the week of the 19th before Christmas. They want to try to have it installed by then.
Christmas present.
Right. So the amount it's $10,000. That includes the installation and preparation of the tree. I mean, I found out a lot more about transporting a tree from Clewiston into, Palm Beach County. And some of them are so big, they have to get permits for them to be on the road, and then Highway Patrol has to assist them. And then there's incredible preparation. They lay the tree down, and I mean, they go through, they crawl through the tree, trimming it to get the old stuff off. And so,
Tom, you've seen the
I
photo?
saw the photo, yeah, it's a really nice live oak. Yeah. So the planting height's 25 feet. So once it goes in, it's gonna look like it's been there for a
Yeah.
while.
Right.
Of course,
Yeah, it
a
looks
little
like a
propping
good
up,
tree.
when they drop the root ball in. and
They also have a 1-year warranty on it. They actually oversee the fertilization of it. They pump it. They come every quarter to take care of it and make sure that the tree is healthy. So
he also commented on the existing tree that's still out there, that he believes the absence of the other, or the presence of the other tree held that one back. And he said he believes it'll grow better.
right, as long as we inject this one the same way we'll be injecting the other one, it should take off and fill in
Well,
much
thank you
quicker.
for your efforts. I know it's very difficult. It's a mosquito-ridden haven.
Oh, yeah.
And, spend all day.
About this big.
Yeah. Carry you away.
So
We don't need a motion on this, do we, Mr. Nazaro?
No,
We've already authorized.
correct.
it. The consensus is,
Okay.
job well done. We look forward to seeing the tree.
good.
Okay, let's move on then to the town hall generator.
Yes, so we have I believe it's a 100K generator in the back that, since I've been here, has never presented any problems to us. We did have to replace the radiator, and then when they went to turn it on, a generator like you see back there, it has the diesel engine, and then the generator part of it that hooks onto the diesel engine. And it's the generator part that basically blew. And so we've gone out for bids, or we're in the process of getting bids. We've gotten one bid, and we're waiting on another company to come out here and look at it. It's not cheap. I mean, the one bid that we got was $20,000, but we're getting the bids, which because of the price and the amount. So we'll be following up with you, but we just needed to let you know that we are having to deal with it. And fortunately, we're kind of out of the hurricane season at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Let's move on then to the compact car parking spaces. Mr. Nazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few months ago, staff was approached by the Gulfstream Bath and Tennis Club about the expansion of a gym facility that's located east of the tennis courts on the parcel west of A1A. That discussion, of course, included the requirement to follow the parking regulations contained in the outdoor recreational zoning district, which ties the occupancy rate to the number of spaces. So I'll go ahead and just read that briefly. There shall be provided accessible parking spaces on the lot or land parcel adequate to accommodate one space for each 3 persons of maximum capacity of the facility as determined by its fire occupancy rating. So because the size of the proposed gym facility is tied to the number of parking spaces on the lot, during our pre-application meeting with the Bath and Tennis, we discussed the size of the building, which is to be 2 stories and extend south to the setback line along Pelican Lane, and how that size would potentially be limited by the number of parking spaces available. The Bath and Tennis at that point asked if they could use compact spaces to allow for a more beneficial layout and reconfigured parking lot, and of course additional spaces. But of course the town code was silent on that. We looked at the Delray code, which did allow for a certain number of compact spaces. But we had since transitioned to Highland Beach, which actually has a larger parking size requirement for regular spaces and no compact spaces. So that's kind of where we ended up. I did speak to the town's planner, Marty Miner, who said that he did not recommend adding compact spaces to the town code because they are used to facilitate additional parking within limited urban spaces, and he did not think that was appropriate for Gulfstream. So again, a few months ago, I asked direction from the board, and this is just an update before kind of bringing this to the planner by way of a potential ordinance and code change. The site plan provided by the Bath and Tennis does include the required landscape buffer that is missing in the current configuration, which has the potential to certainly make the area more attractive to the homes that overlook the tennis courts. The site plan has designated 20% of the spaces to be compact, which is in line with our discussions that we had a few months ago. I just want to note that it's not unusual that we change the code to accommodate our clubs, which are an important part of the town. We recently changed the special exception uses to accommodate the water requirements of the big club to allow a reverse osmosis plant. So with that, I just wanted to open it up for discussion to confirm that we wanted to move forward. I don't think that Mr. Lyons or Mayor Morgan were at the meeting. So again, before pushing this to our planner to have a code change, I just wanted to make sure that we have an acceptable direction, and we can have something for you next month or February that would be designed to accommodate some compact spaces in the outdoor recreational zoning district, which of course would include the little club and the big club and the Bath and Tennis.
You don't have an application before you from the club?
We don't. I mean, it was just a pre-application. At this point, I mean, I know that we have someone here that could maybe speak to that. I think they're in the design phase of the gym, and I think that relies on the number of spaces that would be permitted on the lot. So right now we do have sort of like a rough draft site plan. It increases the number of spaces somewhere in the, I don't think it's 20 or 25, to bring the total spaces to 44, and 9 of those are compact. It is, I don't necessarily want to go into the details of the site plan, but instead of driving in the sort of horizontal parking you have now, or the diagonal spacing, it's you'd come in, go down the hill, turn left, like I believe you do now, and there would be rows on the south side against the tennis court, and those would be irregular size spaces. A row on the north side with regular spaces, and then at the end, before you come around to make a U-turn, you would have your 9 compact spaces on the north side there. So compact spaces are a foot narrower, and I believe 1 or 2 feet shorter, 1 foot shorter than the standard spaces, and that's consistent with what I think other jurisdictions parking size. Again, Highland Beach is kind of an outlier, but the Palm Beach County and the city of Delray Beach have these parking space sizes that are consistent with what we're looking at here.
And remember, the proposed parking spaces are head-in parking spaces.
Perpendicular instead of the current 45 degree. Yeah.
Right, currently you enter and it's diagonal
These are going to be
to allow a lot of the larger vehicles that come in as well. And it goes with the flow entering and leaving the parking lot. Now those spots will be perpendicular to the tennis courts and the road.
Correct. And there'll be a landscape buffer that's required per code on the north side of the spaces on the south side of the road.
How many would actually be gained? Only a couple of spaces? I mean, it doesn't seem like it.
I mean,
So it'd be go from 44 to 42. I mean, it doesn't.
I mean, you're allowed to have an informational meeting about the proposed application. I think Mr. Sowards has a little board there. If you want to, if the staff would let him show it.
Speak if you'd like. So.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mayor Commissioners, Jess Sowards, Curry Sowards Aguilar Architects. I do have a site plan that is a preliminary analysis that Mr. Navarro was discussing earlier. As we're working back and forth as to how much of a larger fitness facility we can build, it ties back into parking. So that was part of the analysis. Can I approach?
Sure. Yeah, just approach, get as close as you can.
So as is currently described, I'm not showing the existing, but right now there's diagonal parking, and it's a sea of asphalt between the residents to the north, all the way over to the tennis courts. And there is a continuous hedge that's along the fence line. So what we can do, and I think there's 26 or 27 existing spaces that are at a 45-degree angle. And so what we're able to pick up, I think was like 46 spaces. So it's substantial pickup. And it's a much more organized circulation system. And we can pick up a hedge line and some tree islands, et cetera, so that the residents to the north will have a better view to the south. Instead of looking just at asphalt, we can actually begin to beautify that parking lot. But to do so, because there's an existing retaining wall here, I'm limited in my width to make that happen with the standard spaces. So what we're proposing in this scenario are 9 compact spaces in this location instead of the standard spaces. And I'm able to do that because, and I told you incorrectly, it's 2 feet shorter. So a standard space is 9 by 18. A compact space traditionally is 8 by 16. So it's 1 foot shorter in width, 2 feet shorter in depth.
It looks like you would actually lose space with the tree line, the landscaping line, because that's a one-way road essentially. And you're going to put landscaping there, which will block off either the road or the existing parking that they have right now.
Yeah, the idea is to make that a 2-lane road, so that way the residents don't have to go through the parking lot.
Oh, interesting.
You're going to enlarge the road?
Yeah, so the road becomes a two-way road. So that way the residents, because right now it's kind of convoluted, they kind of go through the parking.
Where do you come in off A1A?
Right there.
Right here, and then you come back down in here, or you go straight?
No, you take the left.
As
That's
a
interesting.
club member, or as a resident?
Where are the compacts?
As a club member, you could
Compacts.
come down.
In the middle?
Down the road, and you can make a left
Compacts
into the
there.
parking lot.
But that's your only option.
Okay,
But
yeah,
you
in the
can also
middle.
go further west.
Remember the road's covered.
In that direction too, because it's a 2-lane road.
That's a road created by, that's an ingress egress created by.
I spent quite a bit of time looking at this because we had a tournament which Mr. Stanley won. Congratulations. I spent as much time walking up and down this parking area as I did watching his exemplary game of tennis. And I'll tell you, I'm not convinced. I think that is a really tight space. A suburban, I think, is 18 feet in length. There are a lot of Suburbans at the B&T who come in. And whether it's a Suburban or a Tahoe or a Sequoia, whatever, there's a lot of large SUVs. And I was just trying to imagine, not the horizontal look, but the perpendicular look. If you have 2 SUVs backing out, is there enough space for them to actually make the turn without, making several alternative turns before they can go straight?
Yeah. This is a standard parking lot design it's in all the municipalities, 9 by 18s and a 24-foot drive aisle for backup. It's all standard. So if you can park your Suburban anywhere else, you can do that here.
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy at Publix or at a strip mall. Now that we have your dimensions and your measurements, I would like to go back and try to reimagine this. It's
Mhm.
kind of,
Mhm.
I'm a visual guy, kind of got to go there with my tape measure and
Mhm.
have a car and drive it and,
Yeah,
get a better
it's
idea of how practical this is. Let me ask you another question. How about fire and rescue?
We have to make sure all the turning radiuses, so that, getting in and out, these curb cut, all those turning radiuses
Right.
are adequate for the.
Are you reducing the existing turning radius there?
Well, there
on
really
the
isn't
south side?
any, there really isn't any, it's just a sea of asphalt.
Right.
So
I know.
so you can kind of park in which way you want at this point.
No, that's my point.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy for a
Yeah.
fire truck to get through there because it's open.
Mhm.
You're going to be reducing that by designating a roadway, correct?
Yeah, we run what's called an auto turn, so that way we know where the wheels turn and the
WMT
turning
owns all the
radiuses
parking.
for the fire trucks.
Okay.
So
That'll
So
keep
that's what-
some of those
that would
houses
be
from
the
parking
next step.
there.
Yes. Um,
I mean,
Okay.
you know.
I got a couple of quick questions. How many spots are there?
It's at 45.
So if you had 45, if you had 25 Suburbans, you couldn't park all 45.
No, you could.
I mean, I don't know what the mix of small and big cars are. I don't know what a compact car is to it. I mean, I don't know what the technical, I'm just asking a practical question. In concept, it follows standard sort of parking layout. I can relate to that. I just don't understand how the mix of cars will work here.
Yeah, well, for instance, when I parked this morning, there's a golf cart, sitting out front. So people are more and more using the golf carts to get around and use the parking lots. I have an Audi Q6. I parked in compact spaces with that one. So
Is that a compact? I mean, I don't know what a compact car is. Let's not get too hung up on that.
yeah,
I mean, the administering this is not going to be it. So nobody's going to park an SUV in those compact.
I would venture not. Yeah. If they do, they'll take up 2 spaces.
May I make a comment to this board?
Yeah, and by the way,
Lee DePietro,
these are only questions. And
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. I'm a board member of the Bath Tennis Club. And to answer one question, we've done sort of an informal survey of the cars that use the parking spaces, and it's a hard thing to do because there's a lot of back and forth. But we've estimated that about 15% of the cars that use the current parking lot at on the tennis side would be called compact cars. If you include minis and some of the typical cars, even 911s, we seem to have a lot of those in there too. But it's about 15%. So we're not giving up a lot of spaces just to park compact cars. There are actually that number of compact cars that could use those spaces. So
Can I?
if that helps.
Yeah, can I also, this is, I mean, it will keep some of the construction, because they take up a lot of the parking lot right now, some construction workers and all that. Where will those people park? I mean, like people that come to those houses, and I mean, it's good for the club because sometimes those parking places are all taken up by construction workers or other cars, visitors.
Yeah, I understand. It's a typical situation
Yeah.
that we have.
But then is there a place for those cars, like the service people to park at, those, all those little houses, they only have like one driveway.
Yeah, well, it's like.
I mean, that's not your problem, but.
Well, it's like a typical street any place else, within the town of Gulfstream, and, you got a street and you got a driveway. So I saw this as a win-win to try to get some landscaping in that sea of asphalt.
No, I agree. I
So
mean,
I figured just beautify that parking lot quite a bit. In the meantime, pick up some additional parking spaces.
Well, is it the purpose of the club to make this change to enlarge the fitness center or to beautify the area? I mean, what's the motivating factor?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what initiated it was first try to figure out how large of a addition we can do to the existing fitness, and that's where it started. And so while we're there, well, we really need a landscape buffer. Let's figure out how can we beautify this at the same time, so.
If this number of compact spaces were permitted, how large would the fitness center be?
I don't
big.
recall. I did this months ago, so I don't recall those numbers.
Okay. Then why did you select that number of compact space?
Because it went back to the addition and existing facilities. So I'd be making up a number.
Is this the maximum number of compact spaces that could be put down?
Well, for instance, City of Delray Beach allows 30% of the parking spaces, that's provided on the site. What we're proposing is 20%. So it's much less than what other municipalities allow.
Okay.
So we just thought that was a fair, concession.
Has there been any discussion with the other property owners who own, I guess, half of that entrance street?
There has not, and if we're looking at a code change, they really wouldn't receive notice of that until they actually have an application that they would, get notice for.
Craig, who owns the road? Is it half of the owners on each side of it?
That's correct. It's private with half the owners on the north owning their half and then the Bath and Tennis owning the south half.
But the B&T owns the whole parking lot, correct?
Yes,
the
the whole parking lot. I think that he kind of, I think that's the property line, that hatched area where you see that.
Right there.
So it's like half and half. I think
Okay.
It's an easement.
Yeah, it's created by easement.
I still need to do some due diligence based on what you've said. I'm not in favor of, since our urban planning designer has argued against this. I'm not inclined to support it. However, based on what you said today, I'd like to go back again, take measure in hand, do a few measurements myself. I've been doing this too long to just rely on two-dimensional presentations.
Yeah, it's hard to visualize even for me, when you're out there in the space, to see where the actual property line is, especially for the neighbors to the north, determining that property line, because they got the drive aisles and the sod kind of comes over and music can come over. So find the property line and then work backwards from there. So.
And you've got, or have presented the town with the measurements, the dimensions between the south side of the north compact parking versus the north side of the south parking.
Yeah, in the pre-application or meeting, we kind of went through some of that. So, but that's, to me, the first step is, are you even going to consider compact parking? Then we have all the details that we have to finalize with the truck turnarounds, all those odds and ends that from a technical standpoint, we need to make sure that we meet.
Yeah, I'm just uncomfortable with that, changing the code and then deciding if things work. Anyways, I'll leave it.
So, I mean, really, we're just kind of looking for direction. We can put it on the town manager's comment, just as long as it doesn't become like the undergrounding project and it's there for, 8 years. So if you could give us some direction on what to look at, or
yeah, I think I've made my position clear at this point. So I think let's table this until the next meeting.
Okay.
Let's bring it up again. So when we can think about it, go down, take a look at it, try to visualize it a little better. We'll take it to the next step. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Construction during the season, 3550 Polo Drive.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just have a couple of comments before I get into those details. As you know, the town has an ordinance known as the Gulfstream Construction and Maintenance Activities Ordinance, which regulates construction activity during the season. And I know that throughout the community, there is some confusion as to what this ordinance does and allows or prohibits. One perception that it does not do is completely stop construction. Actually, we get really busy around December 1st with calls from residents regarding construction, and because they know we have seasonal requirements. But, and some people believe that that ordinance actually prohibits any kind of construction, but it, as you guys know, it doesn't do that. But it rather defines construction and maintenance activities as either regulated activities or restricted activities. And please remember that restricted activities are not prohibited activities. So this ordinance also includes a lengthy section entitled exemptions. The section is detailed, but it does require individual interpretation to some degree to manage and enforce the ordinance. So every year, as I said, around December 1st, the staff deals with construction exemption requests on a daily basis, basically. The code actually does allow temporary exceptions for up to 60 days. Now, I've never dealt with any for 60 days because the goal is on some of these restricted activities. I mean, they're restricted. So, but they're not prohibited if they have a temporary exemption for short periods of time. So over the time that I've been here, we've been managing this ordinance and have been successful at it. We've not gotten, I rarely get complaints about construction. Obviously, we get complaints sometimes about construction during the whole year. But times are a little different right now. As you know, with supply chain issues, scheduling, concrete pours, construction activities are much harder to manage and schedule. And so one of the examples that I'm talking about today is Lemon Hill. And so they have been for the last couple of weeks doing construction that is very loud. I mean, I've heard it blocks away, but we have been, the attorney and I have been working with the construction people there, and they're attempting to get all of this heavy, loud construction done by today. And so they are actually on schedule for what we discussed with them. They are doing their last concrete pour for the panels that have been pounded in over the last couple of weeks. And they will be putting in, pounding in rebar today. And so if that all is successful, this loud noise should be stopping. And I know we have a commissioner here that's probably felt some of that over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We, in fact, were on the phone with the construction people this morning before the meeting, and they are, in fact, on schedule and doing this last concrete pour today. This is an example. The concrete pours are so difficult to schedule. If you miss one, I mean, that throws you back a month or 2, maybe even more. And this site was impacted by a scheduled concrete pour that they couldn't do because of the hurricane. So they had a lot of work that was dependent on this concrete pour that they had to reschedule because they had to reschedule a concrete pour. So that's an example of what we're dealing with now, much more in managing construction during the season. So that's one example. The next example is that I want to mention to you is at 3550 Polo. There's that is the site where we have a seawall that during high king tides breaches, the water breaches that seawall all the time, contributes to the flooding on Polo and Old School. You'll remember excuse me, the storm we had a couple of years ago. The chief said it was the worst flooding that he'd seen in that area. So we've been also working with the owners of that house who have actually been working on permitting for a new seawall there for at least a year, because they have to get federal permits. That's what's taken so long. Then they got caught up in our change from Delray Beach to Highland Beach for a while. And so that has pushed their work back. Otherwise, I think they would have probably had this done. So the point I'm trying to make is they also have a seawall that is being impacted. It's an old one. It does have holes in it. Some of their backyard is washing away. I don't think it is imminent that the seawall will be falling into the finger canal there, but it certainly, as we all know, needs to be replaced because it's simply the height of it. So we have an application for 3550, and then the neighbor to their south, they're going to be doing the seawall at the same time. I'm working pretty much as a team, the town being part of that team, the applicant and the contractor. I think they have a very good marine contractor. I don't know if I should say this, but those sometimes are pretty hard to find. And I feel like I can really trust this one. So I'm working with them on perhaps an alternative to waiting until May. They've already started soft work. I've allowed them to pour concrete slabs on site. And they were doing that the other day. They had a pump, and the gentleman blowing the leaves and stuff off the newly cut lawn next door was much louder than the concrete pump. So I'm working on an alternative with them to perhaps start during the season, not in the early part of the season, but rather in the middle or the later part of the season. So they're not working during the holidays. But part of that agreement is that the owners at 3550 need to contact all of the residents and explain to them the work that would be going on. I mean, it's pretty heavy work. We're talking about 75 piles, which would take about approximately 2 weeks. So it's a work in progress. I'm not going to tell you that we will actually start. It kind of depends on how this goes the next couple of weeks in terms of talking with the neighbors. But it is something that really needs to be done. That's going to that property line between the two neighbors of 3550 and 3500. We have a drainage facility there that we're going to double the size, and so we're going to have to be working with this with the marine contractor to size up where that new outfall is going to be in his seawall. Bottom line is that there's a good possibility that we might start that during the season, but there's a lot of things that have to fall into place before we do.
As a town manager, you have the discretion to allow prohibited work during the season, and it's obvious from your comments that you'll take care to limit the impact on the neighbors as much as possible.
Correct. So this is really just a heads up of 2 projects that are samples of work during the season.
Very good. ARPB meeting, next one is December 15th at 8:30 a.m. for anyone who would like to attend. Mr. Dunn, back to you with the finance report.
Yes, you've got your copy of it. There's nothing out of the ordinary with this. We are beginning to get the ad valorem distributions from Palm Beach County tax collections. You see the amount of money in permit revenue that Highland Beach received for the month of November. We have been notified by FP&L that electric rates will have a significant increase beginning in January of 2023. And our revenues and expenses are trending as expected.
Any questions, the town manager on finance reports? If not, Keith, police report.
Request that the report be accepted as submitted. I would just like to make a note of that construction was very busy last month and still continues to be busy. Amongst that, we wrote 5 citations, reference a violation of the construction manual booklet. So we've been, hard on people and trying to accommodate them at the same time. It has been very busy out there and cost a lot of time. And our last thing I have is effective January 31st of next year. I believe my position here is the police chief. That's all I have.
Well, Chief, that's one of the longest reports you've given. I just want to say, you have been with this town for many, many years, decades. And at least as long as I've been on this commission, you have led what is really one of the finest police departments on the Barrier Island. And frankly, beyond that, I want to say that you brought honesty, integrity to your position. You've instilled that in your officers and have made them what is a very special police department to our very special town. So I think I speak for everyone here in congratulating you for that, but in thanking you for your many years of service and retirement, well deserved. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to commission action. Presentation regarding security cameras, Mr. Delafield. Does he need to be sworn?
I think you do. Are we voting on this? Not technically quasi judicial.
Right, so we're not technically voting on anything, and it's not quasi judicial, it's just making a,
Informational.
Good morning, Town Commission. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak today. Appreciate it. At our recent Gulfstream Civic Association meeting, we passed a resolution with strong support that we present to the town a recommendation that the town install license plate reading and motion sensor cameras at the 5 entrances to the core on County Road, Sea Road, Banyan, Lakeview, and Gulfview. The license plate readers will automatically notify the police and their police cars if a vehicle is stolen. The cameras will also instantly notify the police every time a vehicle enters Gulfstream. This should be increasingly effective during night patrols, as there are not a lot of cars entering Gulfstream after 10 p.m. We understand that police can't just randomly pull a car over. However, they can make their presence known. For example, a car enters County Road at 11 p.m. The police see it on the camera and are waiting for the car at the stop sign at Sea Road and County. That swift presence should be a strong deterrent and give our police a tool to be able to cover more ground and efficiently target areas of potential activity during these periods. Secondly, this is a proactive measure that will not stop all bad actors from coming into Gulfstream, but will be a major deterrent, particularly with signs by the cameras saying you are under surveillance by the Gulfstream Police Department. If you saw the video footage of our car being stolen in our driveway, you would see how brazen these bad actors are. As our Ring camera lights came on, they knew they were on film. There were people in our house along with our dog. They were strolling around completely at ease. Our fear is that given the state of the current economy, it is only a matter of time before these bad actors start breaking into homes, which is when something really bad is going to happen. Gulfstream residents register their cars to receive the blue stickers, and workers register with the town to be able to work in the town. This should provide our police with a list to cross-reference with license plates that are registered with the town. If a crime occurs, they can start investigating by looking at what unregistered cars entered during a certain period of time. As I said earlier, this is a proactive measure. One of the Gulfstream Civic Association's missions is to enhance property values in Gulfstream. In terms of ways to maintain and enhance property values, security would always be near the top of the list. We believe installing the cameras would be a strong deterrent and a natural evolution in security in our town. Thank you for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob. Do we have any information here? This topic has come up a number of times. We've conducted some investigation.
Oh, right. So it has, I know Captain Hasley has some information. I know that we've looked at cost and how it would be, how license plate readers would be utilized by the police department. Currently we do have license plate readers at the entrance and exit to town through Briny Breezes, who has cameras through Ocean Ridge, and then Ocean Ridge as well, and then of course Delray Beach on the south end. So we do have license plate readers that tracks every vehicle currently coming in and out of Gulfstream via A1A. We also have, some statistics relative to car thefts. Historically, we've had a car theft annually, just randomly every year we'll have a car theft. I believe it was 2020 where we had something like, it may have been 10 or 12, right? So that was a significant spike. And then of course it has died down again. I think we had 2 in April of this year, and we haven't had any since then. All of the vehicles that have been stolen have had the keys inside and have been unlocked. So it's really, largely a crime of opportunity. Captain Hasley, I don't know if you have anything you would like to add.
With that said, statistical, that's correct. We have had some additional, very few crimes. We've had 5 auto burglaries since the 1st of April. All 5 cars were unlocked. 3 of the cars had nothing taken, no loss at all. And 2 of them cars were caught, or crimes, information related to them crimes were caught by the Ocean Ridge and/or the Delray Beach tag reader, which led to an investigation of that. One of them is still ongoing. Our information from the investigation goes on to other task force, and it's worked to the fullest. So one is still active. We did have 2, as Mr. Nazaro said, 2 car thefts this year in April. We have had none since. We've had some other minor crimes, but none of them would have been related to any kind of a video or a tag reader. They were on construction sites, personnel, and person crimes. So that's thankfully about the majority of our crime stats for Gulfstream, which continue to be extremely low. And that's our goal, and that's what we work hard for. Reference to tag readers, as mentioned, we have access to Ocean Ridges from the north. We also have all our laptops and the patrol cars have access to Delrays, which are placed throughout the entire city of Delray. Not only Pelican, George Bush, but Atlantic and some other cameras. So we can access any of them cameras if we're trying to track a vehicle that was in Gulfstream and left, or we get the biggest tool off of that is we get times that vehicle entered Gulfstream. So if we have a crime at 3 a.m., we have the description, some kind of the vehicle, we can go back and pull them tag readers and track that vehicle back. The issue with the tag readers, it does give you alerts if the license plate tag has been entered into the state system as stolen, then we will get an alert. Other than that, you can imagine how much traffic goes up and down A1A every day. So these cameras take a picture of every car, every vehicle. The rear of the vehicle gets a picture of the vehicle with the tag. doesn't take a picture of the driver. We all know about the tinted windows. You can't see in 90% of the vehicles, but we do get a picture of the tag. If that tag is stolen, it gives us an alert. At that time, if it's because Delray Beach is our dispatch center, a stolen tag enters Gulfstream, they will notify us that the car has entered the Pelican and North Ocean Boulevard tag reader. It's northbound on North Ocean, and then we will approach to intercept the vehicle. The same for Ocean Ridge. Our working relationship with them is excellent. Their dispatchers will call either Delray or our officers directly and tell them, we have a vehicle, such vehicle, stolen tag just hit in Woolbright and North Ocean or whatever, it's southbound. And we do the same thing from the north. So, they are out there and we do use them.
But Mr. Delafield mentioned something other than just tag readers.
Yeah, like a motion sensor also that you're alerted that when a car comes in, not only license plate, but it's a motion sensor. And so to my point about at 10 o'clock at night, way past Gulfstream midnight, there's not a lot of people driving around. And so I think you guys, sometimes you're over in Plaza Soleo, there's one person over here. So to be able to know, hey, a car just came in there, let's, and we don't recognize the plate with a resident or whatever, that'd be a pretty nice way to cover more ground and effectively.
It would. The issues with that is, to my knowledge and what I was able to find out is nobody has active video of their streets that I am aware of. We spoke to Lighthouse Point, who has a tag reader system also. They have video on their town complexes that covers some of the roadways and that. They use all that for investigative reasons, okay? I don't believe Ocean Ridge, and there's two other local companies that use a certain vendor with video, and it has a lot of capabilities for the tag readers, but it's not live video. They're not videoing, the roadways 24 hours a day or setting, certain alarms to alert them when a car goes down.
Well, I mean, I have a Ring camera in my house that alerts me every time there's motion in front of it. So, I mean, there's got to be the technology to be able to do it on these 5 streets coming in here. And
well, at this point, some of the vendors, like say, we reached out to one for a rough price of what this would cost, for the cameras that we spoke about. And technology is changing constantly. They may have parameters in their system that they can have live video. We have to look at, who's going to monitor it. Like the guardhouse in Place au Soleil, we have live video motion activated in there.
Is that facial recognition too?
No, and it's not a tag reader. It takes a picture of the tag, but it doesn't give us hit information. That video goes to a server in the guardhouse and it's hardwired and hard powered. So, when you get into live video, it's an endless amount of storage that has to be kept for at least the minimum, probably 30 days.
Yeah, it was our understanding you could have a live featured squad car via Wi-Fi.
That's the only way these cameras would work for us, would be if they're solar powered and they have a SIMS card and their Wi-Fi, and it would come to our laptop. But this company we just looked at, and that's just used as an example, okay? I'm sure there's countless vendors. They're not currently offering video. It's a tag reader, and you get a picture of the vehicle, and the tag information will be, identified. So we can look at live video, see who offers it, how it's stored.
But where would you propose mounting the cameras? They have to be solar powered. We don't have electric.
Right.
And we're not going to.
Someone with the town go out and look at the 5 entrances and what would be the most advantageous place to.
Because I think they had to go on the poles.
Yeah.
Right. To the decorative poles.
But can I say one thing?
Yeah,
Is,
please.
I love the core. I live here, so I think it's great. But we do have other streets in Gulfstream, so I think we have to be equal to everybody. I mean, I think we should be equal
Yeah,
to other communities like Hidden Harbor or Plaza Soleil or whatever. You know,
Agreed. This is just
but
starting point.
yeah, okay. I just want to point out that I think it should be cover everybody.
Yeah, the conditions are going to be the same, so I think it would be equitable to cover
Yeah.
hometown.
Well, that's what I think. Yeah.
You know, but at the end of the day, for me, if there was a way that you could, from an operational and cost perspective, those are two big ifs. And I guess technology. So I think Mr. Delafield would like to see a car comes in, it's not registered in the town, right? And then it would alert a police officer real time. And then the police officer then would show up just for presence, because you can't stop them. Is that the net of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I just think it enables our police force to cover more ground and go to areas where there's potential activity, particularly at night when there's not a lot of activity around here. If you know every street that someone's just driven in on, you get an alert that someone just came in at 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, down in Hidden Harbor.
Like a ring camera, that's what you're saying, but you don't have to run to them.
What's going on?
But primarily, the first goal is prevent. I mean, frankly, I just want to keep somebody out of my house. They steal my car after the fact, you know, I can live with that. But if somebody comes in my house, I think your emphasis is on prevent.
100%.
You and I
Being
discussed this.
proactive and being proactive and getting in front of this,
Yeah.
because it's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen at some point. And the more we can give our police force tools to, you know, really deter that, I think the better. And I think it's getting in front of them.
But I think the initial program would be, in order to be fair to all the residents, would be, you know, you obviously have one license plate reader to the extent it's part of a plan. At the new gatehouse, the Plaza Soleil, they obviously have their supplemental video, which is not which they've done on their own, which is not a license plate reader. Then you've got the two up here, and then you have, you know, 2, 3, 4, you know, whatever the plan is. I'm not an expert in license plate readers. And then I think that was the initial look. And as you know with this stuff, if you know, we've got video overlays and extra software and stuff in 2 or 3 years, you know, it may have to be redone. You know, the municipalities, schools, municipalities, you know, they're always redoing stuff. So if the issue is, do you wait, you know, and see if you can get the dual option, or you just go with this and see how it works? I mean, because the readers, you know, obviously being fair to the different neighborhoods, you've got the south part of the town, which is large part covered by the George Bush camera. North part multifamily is going to be large part covered by the camera, and then, you know, you have some extra ones in here. Now, obviously, you could say it's duplicitous, but again, I think we could get a little more color on that. And obviously, it's pretty easy at a single access point to have a license plate reader at Plaza Soleil, and also you're expanding the number of homes there anyway per the developments in the north. Another 13 homes.
Tom, is that more after the fact? I mean, I think I keep going back to, is there a real-time mechanism where a car is driving down this road, it's 11 o'clock at night, and they're going down to Mr. Delafield's house? I think Mr. Delafield would like for somehow an alert to go to an officer.
Sure, and it'll shrink part of the cameras, you know, moving them is just going to shrink the amount of time. So what are we talking, like a 3 to 6 minute window? So George Bush is what, 8, 9 minutes from here without traffic. You're getting an alert maybe before they've done something, and it's also shrinking the amount of time. We're talking about shrinking the time by 5 to 8 minutes, which can be significant for as a deterrent. You know, okay, we got the motion, we've changed it's like a directed patrol by the camera. Well, talking about shrinking the time instead of having maybe obviously it's timestamped, but by the time you see it and the car is there, you could have a 10 or 15 minute lag. Obviously, I'm not on patrol. I know Captain Hasley obviously deals with it.
No, you're absolutely right, Mr. Stanley. And the point is, there's a lot to look at this. You know, we all get sidetracked by what we see on TV. Okay. a lot of the real-time crime centers that the sheriff's office and other big agencies are creating, yeah, they have live video and things like this, you know, all their intersections. If you stop at any intersection, you look up, you see cameras. Remember live time cameras. When there's a crash at Federal and Woolbright, they know it immediately, you know. That's a room about the size of this chamber where these cameras and screens are that are monitored, okay, and the employees to watch them. Naturally, we're not on that scale, but are they a deterrent? Well, every business in Palm Beach County has cameras, Publix, the malls, parking lots, Walmart, everywhere. How much crime do we see on TV at night? So people that are going to do crimes, are they going to be deterred by cameras? And please, I'm not speaking against the camera system. I just want you to fully understand. Are they going to be deterred by this? No, they're not. They come down A1A, they know there's tag readers there. They stand right out. They drive a stolen car right past them. You know, they come in, they're in here 2-3 minutes, they try a couple door handles. If they get lucky, there's a car gone if the keys run it. If they don't, they're gone. You know, is it going to stop crime? No. They are an excellent post-incident investigative tool. And that's what we use them for. You know, we go back and pull the time frames, we pull the tags, and we work backwards to find the owner of that car or where it's from. As far as live video, you know, it'd be excellent. You know, we have X amount of number of officers on the road per shift. Are they going to respond immediately depending if they're available and there's no calls? Yes, they'll track this immediately. Otherwise, no, they're not. You know, a lot of tag hits come into Delray, and you know, Delray's a full city. They're very busy and they don't have time to take, you know, to go investigate all these. If we are available, of course we'll look into them. But I just want you to understand, it's not, you know, two issues here. One, the tag readers are not video, they're a photo. And, you know, live video is a total different animal to monitor, install, power, maintain, and everything else.
I was just gonna say, as I said when I was talking, it's not gonna, you know, solve everything, but I can't imagine that it's not a deterrent for someone, A, that you're understaffed by the Gulfstream Police Department. B, to the example I gave, if you're down at the golf club, down there on A1A at night at 11 o'clock, and you see that a car is just coming in C road, don't recognize it, whatever, and you meet them, you see that they're coming down Gulfstream Road, and you go right past them and do whatever, and it's someone looking to break into the house. That has got to be a deterrent for someone trying to break into the neighborhood. I mean, just the presence being there quickly and knowing that, and you don't have the ability to know that right now if you're sitting up.
If you don't know the cars are correct.
So it's just giving you a tool to be able to be that much more of a deterrent. It's not going to be perfect, but I don't really, I'll state the obvious with cost, I don't see the downside to having the ability to know when things are happening at, you know, off hours when you can't cover it, be everywhere.
Well, the tag readers, from what I've heard, wouldn't really do much. That's kind of pointless. We already have tag readers in the north and south end of the town, and they are, after the fact, a photograph. What you're talking about is something more proactive,
Right.
Video or a sensor that somehow in real time notifies our police department of potentially suspicious activity. That would need to be looked into, what type of cameras there are, what's involved with that, how is it monitored, what are the costs, what are the false hits, you know, how do they prevent a squirrel from running by and you know, ticking this thing off. Sounds to me like it needs to be investigated, looked into a little more and see what is out there, not tag readers. Right. I don't see the benefit of a tag reader.
Now, we have both access points to Gulfstream are covered, you know, and we have full use of that information.
So can we,
You know,
can we do some research on,
absolutely.
on what Mr. Delafield has suggested, something a little more proactive, and then come back with.
Yeah,
some
and this one
information.
company we did speak with about how their system works and that, like I say, to my knowledge, nobody, you know, they don't offer this live software at this time, but I believe in the future, shortly, they will. You know, technology is changing daily, like you mentioned about the schools and that. What you put in today is updated tomorrow. You know,
Could we have one of the, maybe a representative come in to speak to us?
we could do
About
that.
the current state of the technology.
Sure.
And could respond to some of these questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Just a comment, having heard this and heard the discussion of the Civic Association.
Mr. Boardman, I'm sorry, can we just open public comment and invite everyone to come up
Yeah,
and speak into the microphone? Just so we can hear and have a good record for the clerk when she does the minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Captain. No, we'll just turn the podium over to public who wishes to
Just
speak.
Bill Boardman, present during the discussion at the Civic Association and then present here. I think I emphasize the importance of distinguishing between tag readers and live cameras. I think if you get into full-time live cameras, we really have to think about how would our community like to have that or not like to have. It's different than tag readers.
That's true. Thank you.
Okay.
I am probably the only person in this room who has been accosted by someone who drove in my driveway and then literally tried to run me down. And I ended up in the hospital. I did know what kind of a car hit me. I was not able to read the license plate. But the police, and I believe you were one of them, showed up at my home right away and were quite vigilant. And literally, I don't know how they did it, but they managed to find the kind of car that hit me. And unfortunately, it was an 85-year-old woman driving across the bridge you view these things very differently when you're in the hospital, which I had to be taken to because the car hit me. And I am only suggesting to you that this is a serious problem. And if there is a viable solution, that it should be high on our list of things to try and do. I think that the other thing I would say is that fortunately my colleague Christine is here, and I don't know whether she wants to remark at all, but Ocean Ridge has taken the step by step process of trying to do whatever they can to protect their citizens. And it's a process, not an event. Wherever you start is not where you're going to end up. But I really do believe that this is something that this commission should take very seriously, put a high priority on it, study it carefully, including understanding what Ocean Ridge has done. And it may very well be that the answer is relatively simple, to ally with Ocean Ridge to recognize that this is a problem that serves all of our communities. And we really need to look at this thing not from what's just good for Gulfstream, but what's good for people who live on the barrier island and in places like Place au Soleil.
Christine, does Ocean Ridge have real-time motion cameras?
Yeah, we have 13 license plate recognition readers 5 of them are the new technology that are cell and Wi-Fi based. The residents actually purchased those themselves because they wanted additional coverage. Briney, under our toolage, has 3 cameras now, and Gulfstream Views, which is the new 14 townhouses on Briney Breezes Boulevard, has purchased another 2. And Ocean Ridge, through their dispatch, we have our own dispatch, monitors all of them as it comes to tablets immediately in the patrol cars.
But that's after the fact.
No, it's live. If you zip through the town and you get up against a database of suspended license, stolen car, there's a couple of different databases.
Oh, that's what I meant. So it actually does pick up
Immediately.
something and
Yeah.
sends that to your police department?
It goes to all patrol cars and it also goes to dispatch simultaneously.
But those are,
Photo.
that's a photo. It's license plate readers. There's not video.
Correct.
Can I go back to Mr. Boardman's comment? It sort of suggests to me that as we study this, we had the technology issues, we have the capital costs, we have the operating considerations. We have legal issues. And I think we do have privacy ethical issues because my brother commented, I mentioned this, he said, do we really want cameras all over watching us? And I'm not saying that we don't, I'm just saying it's something we have to look at. So there's a lot of, I think, line items we're gonna have to check to be sure that we should do this. So when we study it, I just like to see us look at all those issues.
Because there could be some concerns with video reference public record law, especially if it's owned by the town.
Oh, yeah. You see somebody, oh, can I see all the videos?
Right.
What happens when an Uber driver drops somebody off in Ocean Ridge at 3 in the morning?
If they are not in a stolen vehicle and it is,
Right.
not with a suspended license and they don't have a warrant out for, whatever, it doesn't hit the camera, it doesn't activate the databases.
Right.
But it does, correct, Christine, it takes a picture of the car. And
Correct.
if you had to go back tomorrow because some crime happened in that time frame, you would get the driver's vehicle and his tag. It just doesn't alert you at the time.
Right.
But it does take the picture of the tag.
In your experience, Chief and Captain, do most of the criminals who have been, ours has been mostly auto thefts, but could potentially be something else. Do they usually use a stolen car?
Probably 90% of the time, either the car or the tag is stolen.
So it would be picked up.
Yes. Which turns into the full, that's why it's a great investigative tool post incident because.
Well, but if you get a real-time notice through your dispatch that there's a stolen vehicle driving down Lakeview at 2 in the morning.
Right, that's
what we're talking about.
approach. What I was getting at is if they use a stolen tag, or the big trend is rental cars. They run a car and then,
Right.
you track all that back and then they tell you, well, I gave the car to my neighbor, he used it for 2 days. And then the neighbor says, well, yeah, my friend used it. And that's the games that are played. But at least you have a tag, a hit and a tag to start with for investigating.
Has Ocean Ridge had any experience where they have in real time received notice of a stolen vehicle driving through one of their streets and their police responded to it?
Absolutely.
And then what has happened?
Very successful in not only stopping and deterring, but also on the back end, like Chief said, Captain said, actually using it as a tool, because without that tool, it's been very hard to prosecute a lot of what's been happening without any kind of physical empirical evidence. And that's what it gives you is on the back end. We retrieve cars both from your area, but because most of ours is cars also. But yeah, no, it's a fantastic tool. And I know our chief would be more than happy to come and give you a report on how has been beneficial to us.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me like we should have a presentation by a company that has some expertise in this field. And our police departments should at least be brought up to speed. I think, John, you've spoken with Ocean Ridge as well.
Yes, I spoke with Chief Jones.
To get it.
And we've also spoke with the rep,
Right.
town manager and attorney. And let's say the technology at this time, I believe they don't have, and this is just one company, they don't have, a live video aspect. But I believe they will in the near future.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak on this topic?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Mike Green, just as you investigate this from a townwide perspective, where I am on A1A on the west side, I actually have a license plate reader there, but I think some residents would be happy to, this is all going to be creating a network. So some residents would be happy to be able to use what they have at their existing homes to be able to create a network for the town per se. I know that one incident where they did come and look at my camera for something that happened in the neighbor's house, but some residents might be happy to also provide access to their physical locations to make the network more efficient.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. Thank you all for your presentations and the information we have. We'll proceed as we've discussed. Okay. Yes, sir.
You want to give them time to read these?
Sure.
Because this
It's just the fencing.
Well, we're moving on to the
Fencing.
fencing.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. The fencing that we discussed at the last meeting, Mr. Dunn.
Yes, so in your packet, you did request to have a diagram showing where the fencing would be going, and we included that. We also took some photographs. And put them in your packet. My suggestion is if we could take a couple of minutes, and I'll rely on the attorney to tell us how we should proceed to do this, is to walk out there so people could look at it. I mean, similar to what we did with the pickleball, when we all went to the parking lot to listen to the pickleball sounds. And I walked out there with the mayor, and he got a different perspective of what we're talking about, being able to put an eyeball on.
Yeah, kind of answered all the questions that I had at the last meeting rather persuasively. So
Sure, I would just ask that we have some initial discussion. Greg, if you want to go over the site plan with a little explanation, where the gate is, how it's going to be attached. So then when we're out there, there's a little bit less discussion needed. And then once we get out there, that you can just sort of outline, okay, this is per the diagram where everything's going to be. And then we can come back inside and have a discussion leading to, a motion.
Okay, well, I think you can see the red ink is the outline of where this fence would be going. I think the most critical area, of course, is back here on the driveway coming into the back area of Town Hall. Can you see where I'm talking about? You know where I'm talking about up here. So the issues that we have to work around is we do have the concrete pad on the east side of the driveway. As you can see, that's where our fuel tanks are. And then we have the lift station on the west side. So you can see the location where we would need the gates. Obviously, the gate would go across the driveway. And Anthony, why don't you stand up here? You can fill in the gaps here. That gate would be one large gate that would slide back and forth. It wouldn't be one that would open this way. And that would be that would basically be open pretty much all day and then closed at night after the close of business. You can also see that we would need gates so there could be access to the lift station for any kind of maintenance that needs to be done on those. Now, The majority of this fence, as you can see, already has landscaping around it. And the fence would actually be on the inside of the existing landscaping. And so people outside of the area back there really would not be able to see it because it's already going to have landscaping buffering it on the outside. The most important area, of course, as you can see, is around the gate coming in the driveway. And by code, we would be required to buffer that with landscaping. And so that's that green color. And so there's actually not that much landscaping we would have to put in to buffer it. It would just supplement the landscaping that's already there. And in my opinion, if you're driving up here, coming around the driveway and heading northbound, I mean, there's nothing buffering your view of that vacant lot back there. In my opinion, this landscaping that we would buffer the fencing there would actually help buffer the unsightliness, if you will, of just a vacant lot back there that could have machinery parked on it. It could have piles of dirt and rock. And so I think actually that this landscaping would help buffer that.
All right, well, let's,
Do we have any initial questions based on this very rough presentation?
One quick question.
All right.
I know that.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm just saying we're adding color by visiting the site, okay?
Next time I'll try to do a better job. Smooth it out. So the town managers had some calls from some people on a county road.
Right.
And a lot of the vegetation was cleaned out.
Right.
If that's the term. And I think that because of the reaction of some of the residents, if we could put some fabric there for some.
No, that's the plan, is
Okay.
to put fabric on the east side.
Yeah, okay, good.
Now, that really needed to be cleaned out because the critters and snakes and, you know, those Areca palms are famous for gathering critters. And so we cleaned it out there. And we do have hedges that are planted on the east side. Admittedly, it will take time for those to grow up, but we've kept them trimmed low, but we're going to let them grow, 10 feet?
No, it's a little bit excessive. We'll probably do about maybe 6 foot because that's a higher elevation on the outside as it is on the other side. Yes.
So there's landscaping there that we'll utilize and just let it grow out. That will also help block the view from our neighbors across the street.
I've walked the property. I've walked the property. Have you walked the property?
I'm familiar with the property. I drive back there.
I mean, I had a lot of concerns at the last meeting until I went out and walked this. And what's been presented is absolutely the best way of handling it. You described it, Tom, at the last meeting. So I guess my reasoning is maybe we don't need to actually go visit the site if we've all seen it.
No, I think the only concerns I'm hearing is on the east side and certainly the town manager knows about that. We need to do something on the east side. So we're just going to screen it on the chain link.
It's going to be that green construction.
And eventually the hedge will grow.
Right. My initial concern is we were in black fencing all over. It's going to be ugly. But when you go look at this site, it's all foliage except for a very small area.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we actually need anything.
Okay.
The presentation was very smooth and silky. A plus. Great job.
I could visualize it.
Okay, so.
What hours?
So we
will
would
the
just-
main gate be open, like 7 in the morning till
Yeah.
6 at night or something?
I get here at 7:30 in the morning
That's
every
when you pop-
morning.
you'll pop it open.
I'm not gonna have it open until 8 o'clock, so that way I can start to turn the construction site people to come in early and park in there and leaving their cars running. And because that was part of also the concern that we were having, that residents were complaining about cars still running and the radios playing and people just talking, and there's just too much noise for them. So at least this way I can control them coming in until 8 o'clock time, and then they can make all the noise they want when they're talking to each other, so.
You know, I think that's a nice thing, but what about those people that show up at 7:45? Are they gonna just sit idle, waiting to get in?
Well,
I mean, I'm just,
they're
you know,
gonna
what will they
learn,
do?
they're gonna learn they can't get here until 8 o'clock. And that's
Okay.
what they have.
I'm gonna hold you
all
to
of-
that.
Yeah.
Well, that's
No,
what
I
they-
already speak to
Wait a
them when
minute.
they're here, and I
Yeah.
tell them that they need to turn their cars off and they can't be talking loud.
That's what they have to do
They
at all
can't
of our
even come
construction
into
sites.
town really until 8 o'clock.
That's right. That's
Okay.
what we tell them.
I think that's great.
They can't mobilize until 8
Yeah.
o'clock.
No, I just didn't want them sitting there waiting for
Well, they
you
do that
to-
now, they just don't make all the noises, so since I've been instructed to make sure, and I don't face east anymore
Yeah.
either.
Yes, they're gonna
I mean, it's
close
just
on
been
that.
different changes to it after I cleaned everything out for the fencing to go in.
Yeah.
It's just, they're learning and they're starting to
Okay.
obeying by
No, I
what,
think
you know,
that's
we're
great.
requesting, so.
I just didn't want them sitting in the parking lot waiting to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they do sit in the parking lot, it's a lot better than being right on County Road, right next to, you know, residential. Whereas if they're over by the gate, you know, there's not as much going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we have some quotes.
You're right. That's the lowest bidder at the bottom.
So we did,
The
Motion to
lowest bidder
approve.
is budget fence and gate
Yeah.
systems. Is there a motion on this?
I'll move to approve the proposed budget for the budget fence and gate systems for $29,059.
It's been a second.
Second.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Let's move on to the ordinances. Ms. Basil, we have
Thank you for that.
22/7.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 66 zoning, Article 2, boards and commissions, Division 5, Architectural Review and Planning Board, Section 66-72, board membership to increase the number of alternate members eligible to be on the Architectural Review and Planning Board from 2 to 3, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances and conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. The second reading and adoption, December 9th, 2022.
Is there a motion?
I move we adopt ordinance number 22/7.
Second.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Ordinance 22/8.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, providing for the annexation into the corporate limits of the Town of Gulfstream, Florida, of certain real property consisting of approximately 707 square feet, more or less, generally located immediately south of 996 Pelican Lane, providing for and authorizing the updating of the town boundaries within the town charter and all official town maps, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances and conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. The second reading and adoption, December 9th, 2020.
Motion?
I move we accept ordinance number 22/8.
Second.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Finally, 22/11.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 34, Utilities, Article 2, Water Service, Section 34-37, Field Visit Charge, to adjust the fee for a field visit charge, providing for repeal of ordinances and conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. This second reading and adoption, December 9th, 2022.
Commissioner Smith?
I move we move ordinance number 22/11.
Second.
Ms. Basil?
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Any comments by the commission? If not, thank you all for coming. Meetings.
We get to take our gifts home.
Stay and sign. You got a lot of ordinances to
Oh,
sign.
yeah.